The mystery surrounding the whereabouts of the lost Malaysian Airlines jet continues. We've got new data, and with it, of course, new theories about what might have happened to the plane. The newest data is based on currently anonymous source that has provided information saying that within about an hour of the plane going missing and not appearing on radar anymore, it did ping in some fashion Malaysian military radar to the west of Malaysia, about as far actually as the radar extends. And so based on that information, investigators now believe that it's likely that the plane did fly, as we said, I believe yesterday, for at least 4 hours after it was initially lost. And they believe that going by the direction that it was traveling, it could be headed into the Andaman Sea and towards the Bay of Bengal in the Indian Ocean. And so now the search has moved in that direction. And both the navies and the air forces of up to a dozen different countries are currently searching an increasingly large amount of area near the Indian Ocean. And right now, a senior Malaysian police official says that based on the information and the likelihood that it did in fact fly purposefully towards the west, what we can say is we're looking at sabotage with hijack still on the cards.
Okay, so I have mixed feelings about this. I thought it was terrorism from the get-go. It looks like I'm more and more right. Depending on how you characterize terrorism, it looks like the plane was diverted.
Sabotage of some sort.
Yeah, and it looks like the most likely culprits are the pilots, all of which makes sense, and they made sense from day one, because if there was a natural catastrophe, normally you would have had some sort of communication for at least a couple of seconds before things went black. Now, I know that they've got to coordinate with other militaries.
So I think you should back off on it, most likely the pilots. There could be a host of reasons why the pilots were unable to make even any communication. And if they were speaking to anyone, it appears in Malaysia, maybe they were talking, maybe they weren't listening, maybe they were in the bathroom, maybe they were getting lunch. Since they don't appear to be super on top of this plane transportation thing.
Okay, now I hear you on that, but from day one, hour one, I was like, if we would have heard something. I mean, it just would be shocking if we didn't get a mayday. We've got a significant problem. We're about to crash any second now, right?
Do you know how to work this thing?
A little help, right?
My grandfather had this awesome glass compass stuck to the windshield of his car. I wonder if they had one of those. Do you know?
Well, I think they had to, because they turned off all the other things that allowed them to get tracked. So they're not getting tracked, and they're going for 4 hours. They would have needed your dad's compass.
Why don't we talk about that very, very briefly, just for a second? So, like everybody in the world, especially in news, is having to become some sort of expert in avionics technology and communication.
That's why
and so we have a picture, exactly, horse riding and avionics. So we have a picture for you of a diagram showing a number of different electronic components of the aircraft in question. I don't know what any of those do, but all of them do transmit some sort of information over varying amounts of range. And the interesting thing,
I bought the CMU 800, and then the fucking CMU 900 came out like a week later.
They should offer refunds for a few months.
Well, that's how I was tracking your car movement.
So one thing we have learned is that we assume that if a plane is in the air, it can communicate in some fashion, but they do have limits on the range, like the Malaysian military radar only goes so far. But the interesting thing, and the thing that makes other people believe that it's not currently just diverted somewhere and it's in some airstrip somewhere, but the fact that none of those are transmitting any information, it seems unlikely that even the pilot theoretically could have disabled every single one of those components throughout the plane and not missed something.
One of the first reasons that we thought it turned in that other direction was the pings that it was getting from the satellites that it doesn't subscribe to. So like it was connecting with these satellites, but Malaysian Airlines doesn't subscribe to that service, so no information was there, but they were talking. They were like, hey, you got anything for us? No. But so they think that's why it was headed in that direction. Regarding the pilots, there's a sentence here at the bottom of the first page of this story, which I guess is a Reuters story, regarding what you said about the pilots. It's one of my favorite sentences in some time. Investigators were still looking at, quote, 4 or 5 possibilities, including a diversion that was intentional or under duress, or an explosion. He said, this was the source, and this was the Malaysian transport minister at the press conference. Whether the diversion was intentional, under duress, or an explosion. Police said would search the pilot's home if necessary. And we're investigating all 230.
You can search it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, search it. I think it's necessary. I think we've reached the point, like at what point? We're going to wait 10 days. And then
When is the threshold when they enter the house?
When does it necessitate a search of the
Where
pilot's
there's the
home?
Law and Order moment where they ask the wife, was there anything awkward about him when he left for work that day? Did you notice that he looked dizzy?
He's going to find his diary.
Did he have direction? Did he seem to be walking toward his car or away from it? There was none of that. That's happening next week. But I do think, don't you think that the cost of the of effort to find the cost is still not as much as the cost of the news media covering it each day without any new information?
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. It's like a search for news and a search for a plane. And the two hopefully will meet somewhere in the middle. At some point, Ashley Banfield's head will explode if she doesn't come up with a new piece of information on CNN.
Well, that's exactly what we talked about, Anna and I did yesterday, and how they just non-stop. And when these engines in the C9MU900, whatever, was turned off, CNN was like, no! Turn it back on! So, look, I feel a little conflicted on a couple of these things. As we said yesterday, I think it's an enormously interesting story. But at the same time, I don't think it's interesting for 24 straight hours, right? You have to have a new development, as we just told you, a new development, and then we're done with the news portion of this, right? And we're not going to continue for 2 more hours on this topic. But on the portion of revealing things to the press, because CNN will strangle someone if you don't, I feel like they're actually releasing too much information to the press. If we think that it was possibly hijacked, and we know how to track the engine parts, I wouldn't tell the guys on CNN about that because they might not have been aware of that. For example, they might have thought, hey, we turned off all the tracking things and we went for 4 hours near Pakistan. Haha, they don't know where we are, except we just told them, we think that there might be some chance that you went in that direction, and we know that you were going for 4 hours, and here's all the information we have on you. Because remember, they might get that plane, in one of the theories, they might get the plane back up in the air and do something terrible with it, right?
Yeah.
And in which case, now they know we can track them once those engines start humming again, right? I wouldn't want them to have that information. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that gets back to my original point, which is that the Malaysians don't seem on top of it in any capacity, including the not going to the pilot's house, not subscribing to those services, releasing information that turned out to be incredibly wrong, saying, we found the plane! And then, of course, they didn't find the plane. And they don't, and so they're releasing, I think you're right, they're releasing information which would be better kept private.
And I think there's a world of pressure on them from world news, CNN.
I think they're
saying, like,
cracking
say it!
We saw a report today that they have actually hired a witch doctor to help locate the plane.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I assume CNN will be doing an hour of coverage on that tonight.
Well, they actually do have
I'm not joking, by the way.